Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Digital Experience Iteration Retro meeting, where we go over what went well and what to improve on for future iterations. So this is for today, which is March 11th. So we'll start off with things that went well. I see that Jess added one. She's not on the call. And she said that using blocks Tina put together in Slipper's Figma file has improved the workflow speed, which is awesome. And then Stephen, I think, is next.
Yeah, use Netlify CMS, so I got to test it out, which was pretty awesome. It was great. It was really painless and stress-free until we got edits, which is things to improve upon. So I'll get to that later on. As well, like Figma edits, I'm becoming more proficient with Figma, slowly but surely. I think Tina can sort of empathize with this, which is to learn about things with Figma is a bit difficult at times. It can take you a long time to figure out doing something really simple. But I'm beginning to understand and appreciate more the power of the tool, how it works and how we can sort of circulate any changes. And it also serves as a little bit of opportunity for us to circulate different types of documentation because we have that option whenever we push changes to the library. Yeah, that went well too.
I think I'm next. Something that went well for me during this print was collaborating with the search team. I put in some requests for some metrics, and both Shane and Niall responded very quickly. And so that made me super happy. I expected to be waiting weeks and not 48 hours to get some of this information. So I'm grateful for that. Lauren, you're next.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about the process of building a template in dub with slippers. Me and Tyler kind of worked through the first iteration of that, and we're going to get better at it. Laura.
I guess there was a meeting that Michael had created for the commit event that's ongoing. So we got to align with the brand team, the content team, and digital experience team, all getting together to figure out what the path forward would look like for creating events templates in general. And I think we figured out a lot in that meeting and got a lot of questions answered. So that was nice. Even though we try to work asynchronously, it was nice to sync up in person. And I have the next one also. Javi mentioned in one meeting that he was adding Slippers documentation. And so I reached out and added some of the gotchas that I had kind of come across while developing in Slippers. And he was super quick to add them to the documentation for anyone else that might have been struggling with similar issues. And I think Tyler is putting one in now.
Yeah, last retro, I had been struggling with like weighting and like WEIGH, like weighting issues and time estimation. And this past iteration, I feel much better about that. And I feel like, throughout this iteration, I felt like this is the appropriate amount of work, and like still a couple things that were like expanded beyond scope, but like nothing that felt so out of touch with like what I anticipated at the beginning. So felt really good about that. And thanks everyone who participated in the weighting feedback during our planning session.
I just added a quick little note that Lauren Barker's scoping method was helpful. And I won't go into too much detail. You know, we can't reveal our secrets, but yeah, that has been very helpful.
We're supposed to be open, Javi. You're supposed to tell everybody everything. You can't just hold it close to the chest. It's not the GitLab way.
Never reveals their secrets.
No, listen to this guy.
Sweet. I think we can jump into things to improve on. I think Tyler has the first point there.
Yeah, I just realized I think I started and collaborated on 3 or 4 conversations through this iteration where I just had like the absolute wrong interpretation of Figma files because I was just reading them totally wrong. And I was like, no, the thing says that, like, that's what it says. Laura literally posted like 3 screenshots of a thing with a label. And I was like, right, but the label still says this other thing. It was like highlighted with, and I just like did not see it. It took me like 3 or 4 times. So I just like, I will get better at Figma. Tina showed me the desktop app. I apologize for any inconveniences I caused from just reading those things incorrectly. But I just wanted to call that out, that that has caused some of my like miscommunications there. And thanks for everyone for the patience. And I appreciate your supportive comments down here, everyone else. And Tina, I absolutely would attend a 101 session.
Just so you know, Tyler, you're not alone, and I'm a designer, so you're in good company. Don't worry.
It took me so long to see. I was like, oh, those lines are pointing to the thing that Laura highlighted on her screen. I was like, that's what she's trying to tell me. I had to like go back and I like looked at it so many times.
Sanmi, do you want to vocalize your comment on that?
Oh yeah, so it was just the same thing. So when we were all in that meeting, I knew, oh my God, Tyler did not get what everybody was trying to say, but it's normal because I also ran through the same thing when I was working on Google Analytics, because it's been a long time I've worked on Google Tag Manager, synchronizing with Google Analytics. So it was hard for me to figure out which tag is this guy using. So I had to call Shane, like, come on, come and show me whatever you have going on here. And he just explained, and I quickly got the hand of it. So I'm also planning to pick up on some other stuffs like Marketo. When Brandon was explaining how it works, I really love that. I've never played around with it before. So I think we can all learn from each other. Nobody's an expert. We'll keep knowing different stuffs. I love this team. This is like family to me. Yeah, that's it.
I have the next one. So the brand messaging project, it wasn't really like built ready for me to go in there and start building the MRs to update all the pages. The date got pushed, and now it's next Wednesday, and it's still kind of a fire drill. There isn't like a clear, this is what you're updating on this page with this language. So I'm wondering how we can get ahead of these so they don't keep reoccurring, because it's really stressful. So yeah. And then the next point I have is process documentation for updating slippers components, packaging them in a release, and then using them in dub. And I linked to the Slack thread I had. I'm a little, there's probably a process there. And so I just kind of want to know what that looks like.
There isn't, or like there's a thing that like Javi and I have done a handful of times, but we haven't documented it. And like I've kind of neglected to document it purposefully because I wanted to wait till the question came up. I've got a point here about like what I think we should do with this below. But the answer is like, yeah, like there isn't one. And so you are exactly on it. Like I wanted to like let that be a critical mass of like, okay, now it's time to update it. Like, what do we do so that we could like do that in an MR specifically?
Should we push a new package just so I get the new the tag component and then I can use it? Or do we want to wait until we have like a couple more updates?
We should push it. This is actually documented in the semantic versioning. Minor version, while we're in version 0, minor versions are tied to the end of each iteration. So like right now we're on 0.6, but we'll be bumping up to 0.7, or maybe I'm one off. The patch versions, so like if it's x.y.z, the z of that, those are specifically meant for like inside each iteration. When you make a change that you want to go live, like increment the patch version, publish it to npm, so that you can get access to that code. I've also been doing, you can do alpha tags and beta tags, and this is what tripped me up is like, because this isn't documented, but if you're working, like I'm working on an MR where I've got branch in dub, branch in slippers. Neither of these things are ready for other people to consume. So I have an alpha tag. It's like 0.6.4 -alpha, and I can publish and I can increment on the alpha and like pull it into dub without anyone else having, like it denotes that not only is this unstable v0, it is like literally a work in progress like this. And then I've published it like 4 or 5 times, you know, and it publishes very quickly, but that is like the crux of it. And we should document it, like take this question, turn it to an MR, document it, and like clear that up for folks. But yeah, I'd publish new package and keep things in lockstep. And at the end of each, the nice thing is at the end of each iteration, we get back to a clean slate where it's like, boom, increment the minor version, we're back to 0.7.0, we get restarted next iteration.
I just dropped a thread in the doc, link to where that documentation is, even if it's not finished, but yeah.
An action item off of this that I want to give all of the developers here publish access to npm, because I think only me and Tyler have it right now. So if all of you want to make your publishes, like you would have to talk to one of us, which is like not efficient. So I'll talk to you all on the Slack about that.
Thanks, Stephen, you're next.
Yeah, me. So carrying on with the documentation, that's like my sole priority for the next sprint. I had kind of made a soft start before, but then different things came up and it's sort of hard to like jump in and jump out. It's kind of something that you need to get a bit of a flow on. So my documentation is going to just generally revolve around high level design stuff. I'm not going to step on any developers' toes, of course, because how would I be able to write documentation about that? And I use Carbon Design as my sole reference for, or a primary reference, not sole reference. It's got a couple of different types within that. So it's a good one to kind of work off. And the link is there if anyone wants to go and check it out. It's my favorite design system. It's the most robust. So it's pretty cool. And the next one, the submission process for the blog. So we submitted, but we didn't go through the right channels. This was a mistake on my part, which then led to the edits that I showed you in the draft earlier on, how it goes back through things. So it wasn't explicitly clear how to submit for a blog, like the actual process of submitting for it, like going to the CMS, putting in your content, editing it, making it, applying your hierarchy and all that. That's very easy to do and very succinct. But actually the process of it going through copywriters, making sure that it's speaking the right language and to get a different set of eyes on it, that wasn't explicitly clear. So I'm wondering, is there a way that we can kind of improve the two of them? Like they are related in some ways, to sort of save anybody the pain of going through what I had to go through, which was to put it live, celebrate it, but then get told actually there's edits and things, you have to go back through that. So I'm wondering, is there a way to sort of improve that process, bring the two of them closer together? Especially because my intention is to have more blog posts pushed as we go for this. It's very good for our team. It gives us a lot of scope and visibility as we go, especially as we're making improvements at the pace we are. And if anyone hasn't read the blog, please do let me know what you think so I can improve for the next ones. But yeah, that I think the submission process for the blog, where it's the Netlify, but also there's like a pre-edit that needs to happen for that. To me, it makes sense to have them somewhat related. So that might be a bit more of a collaboration with the content team around that to make sure that we're hitting the targets that they've set. So yeah, just some thoughts on that.
Cool. I think I'm next. A small, I guess we noticed earlier today we had a demo with inbound marketing, and some of the pages that were shown were created under the topics pages, but they were using the old way of doing things instead of using Netlify CMS to build those topics pages. So we have new documentation around Netlify CMS, so hopefully that helps, but just getting the word out a little bit more. I don't know if Lauren wants to speak to that or.
Yeah, I think just vocalizing it more. It's still going to happen, especially when we have a new template out, but it'll start happening less.
Tina, do you want to go?
Yeah, my point relates loosely to Lauren's point about the brand messaging project. I find that web page requests are still very nuanced. I think we need to collaborate on a way of having some kind of template to collect like basic functionality examples for, especially for cross-functional requests. Like I have a multitude, for example, I've been giving a multitude of links to issues and spreadsheets and things that say, put a schedule, CFP block. What's the CFP? Oh, call for proposals. Well, how does that work? And there's just like literally just, that's all that things say. And trying to track down details is extremely time consuming and really bogs down the process. If it's already in somebody's head, if it could just be documented before it lands on a UX designer's lap or an engineer's, that would be great.
There's a heading in the like GitLab communications. I know this guy, it's like number 13 in an ordered list on the communications page, I think, is like avoid acronyms. So like I think just like I like am gonna commit to like doing better about fewer acronyms. And it is like part of the handbook. So would definitely like, yeah, I want fewer acronyms because I'd always get lost with them.
I'd like to to work with you on that. From the engineer's perspective, I like to know exactly what I'm doing to something by the time I get there to updating it. And I would assume for you, if you're building a template, you want to like have functionality and all the information, instead of with the brand messaging problem, I'm pulling from a variety of sources, and I'm making decisions like, ooh, which line should I use here? I don't know. Like, I shouldn't be making that decision. Yeah. So
yeah, and I think it's also an understanding of what maybe an educational piece of what we do. Like maybe because something is assigned to me as a wireframe, somebody thinks that I'm creating gray boxes and putting the word schedule here and not actually working out how this schedule works. What is it? What platform is it linked to? And then trying to communicate that to an engineer. So, and I think maybe some people think, oh, the engineers are smart. They'll just figure out how this schedule works. Or maybe, you know, I don't know. But yes, definitely we need a way to define things that come our way.
I'm also with Laura's comment there on acronyms as they pop up and you're frantically Googling them. It can be a bit like spaghetti soup.
That's especially for the marketing. Like I don't have a marketing background. So I hear GTM and I think Google Tag Manager, but that's like go to market or whatever, right? Like, you know, it's
like we're talking about our Google tags so much these days. I was like, I didn't realize it was such a big project. Like, wow. And like, it was like the second meeting, I was like, hold on, like this must be something else. Like,
same with POC, proof of concept. I'm like, people of color? That's what I associate you with.
I never thought of that. Good God.
That's a good one. I've also thought of that before. It's like, what?
But yeah,
Tyler,
in terms of the, sorry. I was just going to say, in terms of the like trying to collect more information. I mean, I think we've all run into this when we get handed something without enough stuff. I don't know how to fix it. I know that Becky was making new templates for issues, but even that was like a whole process to get people to kind of fill them out properly. So yeah, maybe there is like a working video we can do to be like, hey, I've just received this issue. Here's the steps that I do to like complete it. Oh no, it doesn't have this. Let me reach out to this person. Like, I don't know, maybe there's some, you know, working in public way to do this, but.
Link to handbook page maybe where we outline the types of things that we need to know or we don't do it.
True, yeah. I'll add an action item to kind of look into that. And then yeah, sorry, Tyler.
Oh, good. Mine's quick because we kind of went over it earlier in a different bullet point. Something to improve on moving forward that I think we should do is like try and default to like handbook first, and particularly for like slippers questions. And so like it's so like it's challenging to do this in the moment, but like if you're and sometimes it makes sense for like informal communication on Slack, but like if you've got a question and you're about to type it into Slack, like let's try and like type it into an MR and then be like, all right, here's my question. It's in a blank MR, and then like link it in Slack and be like, hey, I've got this question. Here it is. Like, let's talk here. And then we don't have to do like Slack to issue to MR, but we can like collapse it all down into one place and be like, here's my question. And you can even like do like a, you know, code diff in the handbook and be like to do like answer this question or whatever. And then people can do it specifically in those lines and see very precisely like what we're talking about. And when we get the answers done, we click approve and merge, and then it's written down. Right. So like, yeah, I think just more of that for handbook first stuff. And we can take the same approach in slippers specifically too, is like just do those questions MR first.
That's true, because then they can even be like, maybe MRs can be set as blockers for other issues. So
yeah,
if this question doesn't get answered, you know,
that is like super useful. Yeah, I love that. And related to like, even if it's not, it doesn't have to be a blocker, you can like tie it as like, hey, like the reason I'm asking is because I have this epic, that issue, this MR that all need to know this answer. And then when you're going back through those things later, it's like, oh, the reason we did this, or like there were questions related to it in this other thread here.
Cool. So yeah, we have some action items. I don't know if we go over those, or do we?
I'd like to talk about mine,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah.
First one, so we are like, a little over halfway through like the middleman integration of the slipper stuff. And so we're really starting to see the rough edges of where the CSS conflicts are. I know Lauren, Javi, and I have been talking, and I'm sure everyone else has seen it. We talked about it a little this morning. I wanted to flag this as an action item of like what I'm doing today and tomorrow is I'm trying to like answer this question super nicely in a way. And Lauren and I were talking about this for the upcoming commit stuff is like, what can we do to make it so smooth no one has to think about the thing? And so I've got like 2 or 3 different ideas, some of them that are like low tech CSS solutions, but the challenge is that like I don't actually think they're going to solve our problem. There's an where like I don't think like the specificity calculations to make this stuff work correctly may just not be worth the time or may actually be impossible based on the state of things. There's another solution that's like more like architecture in the templating and middleman, but that also comes with complications about stuff that we do need to like keep because we don't have everything like rebuilt in slippers yet. And then the third option is a little more high tech and like I'm like cautious about it, but I think there's a way where we can do like shadow DOM and encapsulation with like the underlying technology of like web components, where we can basically say like, here is a like div or like here's a spot in the page that gets its entire document that has like fully encapsulated styles that do not go in or out. But it's a little bit more complexity and like I don't know if it's justified yet, but as I'm like looking at the other 2 options, I'm starting to think it may be like actually the fastest way. So my plan is like exploring that today and tomorrow, because I've got focus time and stuff, and then like coming up with the easiest solution. And like obviously like if other people have, and like Javi found some really good stuff in like the Tailwind config things. Javi, I tried both of those and they actually did not solve the problem, as a heads up, but like need a ton of brains on this. So I would say like the best course of action for all of us is like if you're working on slippers into middleman, like just see like do like the exercise of try and pull slippers into middleman and then be like, okay, what's breaking, and like solve it with like a very specific task at hand, right? I think that'll be the clear, and then like something will bubble up to be the correct solution. I don't know what that'll be. Yeah, just wanted to flag that I think we're running into that hard right now, but I see like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly interject. I feel like this is like what I was thinking was the solution, and I'm not super sure if this was like in my head, like it was like, all right, like we're using like styles that are pulled everywhere because of a template that we have where the header and footer is like relying on other styles, and there's a ton of other stuff that we may not even know about. So like if we rebuild these things from the ground up with slippers, like would that solve the problem? And like I'm getting to the point where I think like maybe not.
Yeah, that's the like I also like, and that's where Lauren and I started on the Epic for the blog stuff. We started with a blank template and we turned off the default, so we turned off all the styles and stripped them out, and then we had to turn them back on for reasons. And then like even when we strip them out, there's other problem challenges too. So like, yeah,
Yeah, so like I almost feel like it almost makes sense to just like make us, I don't know if this would be possible, but make like like a layout that's just like completely fresh. That would probably have to be our course of action. Like in my head, that's like the easiest thing to do, because like I feel like everything else is just like gonna get really complicated. I don't know, but maybe I'm misinterpreting the problem, but that's kind of how I see it as.
I think you're probably right about that.
Okay, well that's a big body of work that we'll try our best to keep going. You also have did you talk about the other point?
Yeah, I don't need to vocalize it too much. Mentioned it before, the little generator thing. I'm gonna add this for I'm gonna add an issue about it. I am on PTO 2 weeks from now, so I probably won't take it on for next iteration, but I'll add an issue so that someone else can grab it if they want. But just action item for me to not forget to do that.
I might try to do this, to be honest. So this sounds like something, especially because I was playing around with like a little bit of the node stuff, like with the with the timing function. I don't know if you remember like some of the things.
Yeah.
So I think this actually kind of like fits in nicely, even though the other thing was just like totally unrelated. Okay, I just have some notes about like pinging Michael about making our meetings longer. And so then
Oh.
in an action, my next action item is giving all the people publish access, and then coincidentally enough, doing other things with yarn scripts. So that looks like that's kind of stuff that's bubbling up. I have a note about drop shadows that I forgot to add in terms of the UI to code. We're just using Tailwind defaults right now, and I think they work fine. But like, if we're trying to align closer to like what the Figma files look like we might see slight differences between things, but it'll be good enough for a while. It's just a matter of when we want to tackle it.
Yeah, if that's the case, we would definitely want to get some sort of alignment. Either we switch Figma to what's in Tailwind, or vice versa, or we align on a new direction and whatever, or whatever. They should be the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah. There's no pressing issue. It's not.
Yeah.
It'll bother us before it bothers anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it looks like, honestly, I couldn't tell. If I didn't bring it up, I don't think people would have noticed, to be honest.
Good man.
Laura, if you want to talk.
Yeah. I added an action item that we talked about to maybe see if there's a handbook edition or something we can do to give people a view into how we handle issue and web page requests, and maybe that'll help with some of the information that's missing in them. And then also just to the point of meetings, I did just adjust the meeting calendar starting on Monday. So Monday's iteration planning should be 50 minutes. And I added all the retros to also be 50 minutes subsequently on every 2 weeks. So hopefully you can all see that. I don't know. But yeah, and I think that's it for me. Stephen, did you want to talk about documentation for that action item? Or does
just that I'm gonna that's my priority, and that's my target, is to sort of immerse myself on that. So not much more to add than we've already said.
Cool. And then yeah, there's a bit of ongoing chatter in the doc about keeping meetings shorter, 30 minutes. So we'll see what we can do. I know we're a talkative bunch, but awesome. And on that note, I think that is all we have. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.